Hello and welcome back to the Invictus IRL F1 League from the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos, Brazil, and it's back Gareth and Sab in the commentary box on a Monday night. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Can you believe we've only got 2 races left of this season, and tonight potentially we could crown a champion, maybe in John Polainen, we shall see. And talking of champions, I just want to say a huge congratulations to Lozat97 in the F2 league. He absolutely smashed that league all season and became the first champion of the season in IRL. So huge congratulations to him. Be interested to see tonight if John Polainen can join him in the champions victory parade and claim that F1 title tonight. He's gonna be finding it tough though, interviewing the likes of Hercules, who is red hot form at the moment, and there'll be many others out there tonight around this Interlagos circuit who are quite handy around this track. So I don't think it's going to be that straightforward for him tonight.
No, absolutely not, and it's going to be a brilliant race this evening. We heard last week from race winner Hercules, who, as you say, is in absolutely electric form at the moment, that he's not particularly as comfortable in Brazil as he was like Austria last week, where he absolutely blitzed the rest of the field. But he is like a man on fire at the moment. He's only dropped 3 points in the last 4 races. He's been on the top step of the podium in Bahrain, Singapore and Austria, and a second place finished in Italy, where I believe he actually crossed the line first, but was dropped back on penalty. So that shows that he is really pushing hard to take the fight to jump a line in the final stages of this season. With only 2 races left to go, there's a 13-point gap between the pair of them. Jump a line and sits on 100 points. Hercules 87. It's a clear fight now between those two. Hercules, it's a lot of work to do, isn't it? 13 points over 2 races, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him.
Oh, most definitely. He's, like you say, proven how fast he is. Especially last week, he was so dominant once again. And what I'm hoping for tonight, I don't know about you, Gareth, but I'm hoping tonight we have a real ding-dong battle between the pair of them. There's no penalties involved. There's nothing. It's just them two scrapping it out. And if it's a case of John Polainen takes the victory, then so be it. Or if Hercules can do something about it, we really haven't quite had that epic battle between them. Yes, there was first and second in Italy, like you say, but unfortunately those penalties in the end cost Hercules that win, even though he did cross the line. So I'm hoping for that sort of battle tonight, and who knows, somebody else might get involved. We've seen the likes of White Fountain here in no assists last season, didn't we? His epic drive around here in interchangeable conditions towards the end that got him the race victory. And we've got many other people in here as well. I think Harry's worth a mention as well. We know how good Harry is, and he's been quite consistent as well. So yeah, I'm hoping for a real mouth-watering fight between those two, but if one of the other guys as well can get involved, we could be set for a really good race tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a real barnstormer, penultimate race of the season. Not long left to go here in Brazil for the round 11, and then off to Mexico at the of course Mexico City Grand Prix next week to round off the end of the season. And it's been a really good one. We've had some fantastic results, we've had some fantastic races, but it has been a season dominated by John Polainen and by Hercules. The only person to take a victory away from those two was Sammy Pepito, who of course took it in Russia. And it's going to be a real ask for anyone else to get themselves on the top spot. But if we look back through some of the races that we've had here, it's we see White Fountain last season in the now defunct No Assist League, Sab. He took the race victory from 11th on the grid, came back utilising a very smart strategy as the race went from dry to wet. And it's one of those tracks we know, obviously, in the quite a high above sea level here in Interlagos, and we do often get weather changing throughout the race. And if something like that happens again, who knows, that we might see someone, I say someone strange, maybe strange to this season, standing on the top spot, but someone different to the current 2 leaders in the championship.
Yes, most definitely, and it's going to take something special, isn't it? Because, like you say, only one other driver has won, and it was a race where John Polainen had quite a few issues, if I remember rightly, in that Russian Grand Prix, and I believe Hercules was missing from that race. So yeah, if with both races racing tonight, it's going to have to be an extra step up. Like you say, you point at White Fountain, and I have to say, unfortunately for White Fountain, it's been a real struggle of a season for him. We know he's got the pace and ability in this, well, on a Monday night, I should say, but it's just not quite happened for him for some reason or another. But hopefully tonight, because of his history around this track, we might see a bit of spark from him and see some of the White Fountain we know is capable of pushing at the very front of the grid. But yeah, there's so many others as well. We've not even mentioned the likes of Warrislander, who we know over a one lap pace is absolutely phenomenal. You've got Harry tonight as well, who's going Charlie, who's going to also have his new wheel set up, his Fanatec wheel, and boy better know. What can you ever expect from him either? Boy better know. He's had a difficult season himself, but on his day, he's sometimes unbeatable. So fingers crossed, all these elements, all these guys can show us what we've really got, and let's have a great race tonight and next week and really set the season off with a bang. But for me, it's just going to take something absolutely incredibly special to beat the likes of Hercules and John Parkman, because their consistency and just pure pace is just out of this world, out of this league at the moment, and it's incredibly difficult for any of these guys to fight. I genuinely don't envy any of these guys going up against them, because yeah, I just can see why they struggle so much around here. So yeah, as we're just waiting for them to ready up now. Do we expect any? Like you mentioned, we had interchangeable conditions last time. Do we expect anything similar tonight? Maybe a fluttering of rain in qualifying, or fluttering of rain towards the end of the race? Who knows? But yeah, whatever happens tonight, I'm sure it's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really all to play for. So it's one of those tracks where it is a fast lap time. It's around about that sort of just underneath 70-second lap when it comes to the race and qualifying. So it's one that closes up the grid. We can see not particularly. It's only really into the Senna S's first two corners that you see overtaking get done pretty easily. Of course, there's a huge drag from the exit of turn 12 at Yanghao all the way up the hill through turn 13, 14, 15 down into turn 1, where you get a massive tow. So look to see possibly a train forming in the early parts of the race here. But it's a very, very tricky second sector, all the way climbing up the hill through turns 5 all the way to turn 6 at Mugello, and that's really where time will be won and lost in both qualifying and in the race. So watch out for that. And you were saying back then about consistency and how Jumpline and Hercules have been so dominant this season with their consistency. And you look down throughout the grid and you see the likes of Harry currently sitting there in third position in the championship. He's picked up 2 second places, 3 third places. That's much better from Harry this season. He's been way more consistent, apart from a couple of races here and there where he made slight mistakes. We saw, of course, in Azerbaijan, where he was involved in that contact with Foxy Red and Singapore equally. But then equally, you go and look at the Warrislander, and of course, the young Dutchman. He's finished 4th on 4 consecutive appearances now in the F1 League, and on the 5th appearance back in Azerbaijan, he actually finished on the podium. So it's been 4th or better every race since round 6 for him. So he's getting back up to speed after, like you said, he's got electric pace in qualifying. He can really throw down a qualifying lap, and he's almost like what we saw from White Fountain, where Fountain just seems to pull these laps out of absolutely nowhere, especially with time expiring at the end of the session. And Warris, he had a struggling start to the season. Of course, he was involved in that battle for the win in round 1 in Hungary, but unfortunately lost control of the car on the penultimate lap. And after that, he kind of struggled around the midfield. But this second half of the season, he's really picked it up. And as you can see, we've gone to track, and it's an overcast day here in Interlagos, but rain yet to fall, so the guys will be trying to get out there early and setting those lap times, I would imagine. So watch to see them go out. And but yeah, it's with Warrislander, it's a good setup for next season, isn't it? He's getting that confidence. He's being able to run in this top 5, top 4 positions. He's just got to get to that upper echelon now. He's got to start challenging the likes of Hercules and Jumpalainen.
He really has, but I'd say overall for his debut season here on Monday nights in the F1 League, he's I wouldn't say he's been that bad really. Yeah, we've seen him make mistakes, which you kind of expect when you excuse me, when you're in a new league. But overall, I think if it weren't for the likes of John Panan and Hercules being so fast, you would have probably seen Warrislander get more podiums and even race wins this victory. It just shows you, doesn't it, those consistent fourth places, the next step up to get on just to get on the podiums and then into race victories just shows you how much more you've got to be able to achieve in this league at the moment. It just shows you how competitive it is. But I think overall Warrislander will be pleased, maybe a little frustrated he didn't get as many podiums, but overall it's a like you say, a good foundation to build on going into next season. As we now see some of the guys heading out onto track now. We've got Harry and Boy Better Know out there with Burmeister as well out there on the soft tire. And at the moment, as far as I can see, we are missing Boy Better Know's teammate Charlie. I'm not sure why, but Charlie doesn't appear to be racing this evening, so me bigging him up earlier has proved a little premature there. So at the moment we've got guys out there all on the soft tyres except Speed Queen. She looks like she's going out there just to get a feel for the track. She's currently out there on the hard tyres.
Well, let me enlighten you all with what's going to be a fascinating race once again. It's going to be a dry start to the race, but we're going to heavy rain by the end of the session. So it's going to be, the race session will be rain affected later on. So we will see strategy come into play a massive part with when you come in and put on the tyres. Do we go straight to the wet tyres? Do we go for an intermediate stint to the extreme wet tyres? It's all to play for. It really is. Like we said, it really throws a spanner into the works when it comes to people deciding on their strategy. As we're on board with Burmeister, the Dutchman in the Ferrari now, as he's heading down the first straight on the exit of turn 3 to cover Dossol all the way down to turn 4. Quite a heavy braking zone, get it turned into that left turn. Now you climb up the hill through turn 5 and into turn 6. A very, very quick right-hander that comes over the crest. Car can bottom out here at turn 7, where it does be it's slightly off cambered, but now, as you can see, as the Burmeister gets just as I was saying, where the track gets tricky, there he is on the second sector getting out onto the grass. So that's a lap scrubbed off for him. We'll go on board with Scott, Boy Better Know SB, in the Mercedes. He's back, and as you say, he's not at the best of seasons so far. What can the number 25 Mercedes do on his first timed lap out? Here's Harry's done the first timed lap, is a 1:08.1 in the Williams for Harry. So can Scott better that? It looks like he's going to go slightly slow. It's going to be quite a bit slower actually. It's a 1:09.2 for Scott, so puts him over 1.1 seconds away from Harry. We've got a yellow in sector 2, and then at the moment it looks like we've got plenty of drivers coming out on track. We'll just check in with Warris, and of course, as I said, Warrislander, a very strong qualifier, and he will be looking at getting himself up towards the front end of the grid, because if we've got a rain affected race coming, Sab, these guys are going to want to get themselves in the right, or really in the correct position to have a decent first stint, to not be too worried when the rain hits.
Most definitely, and it starts to feel like, it sounds like it's going to get heavier rain than last season's race, but it starts to feel like it a little bit, doesn't it? What happened last season where we had a dry start and it moved into wet conditions, so it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Track position is definitely going to be key, and like you say, everybody's going to want to be right at the very point of this grid. At the moment, I was right on board with Hercules. It was a scruffy lap, shall we say, by his standards. He's half a second off Harry at the moment. Harry back into the pits now. Hercules, I'm not sure. He's still out there now. I'm not sure if he's going for a second lap. He's not going for a second lap. He's into the pits as well. So Hercules in second place at the moment. Warrislander up there in third. So yeah, at the moment, Harry's still leading the way.
He is, as CPI Alex goes up into 8th position on 1:09.459. That puts him last out the current runners. So Alex will be looking at going again in a couple of laps' time. Who else have we got on track? Fountain is out on track at the moment in the Haas. And, of course, former winner here in Brazil. And the Belgian driver will be looking at improving a decent, well, what has been a an on and off season for him. He's not really enjoyed it as much as we've seen in the past, and he bails out of that lap. Into the box comes White Fountain, and that leaves, I believe, Foxy Red, the only driver out there currently setting, or him and Speed Queen out there on the hard tyres, so they're going for that hard compound run. Do they stick with the lap, or is it just a sighter lap for them? No, Foxy's going to come across the line on the hard tyres. Where is it going to put him? 1:11.6. That's currently 9th and last on the track. And Speed Queen, she's equally out there as well. Where is she? She is coming up the main straight now, over the crest, onto the banking, comes across the line. Speed Queen across the line, she goes up into 9th or 1:11.360.
Yeah, it's just proven, isn't it? Those hard tyres aren't really the tyres to be out there, but you can just tell what those two are doing. They're out there getting a good feel for the track, and Foxy, at the moment, I'm riding on board with, is now half a second up on his lap time he's just set. So Foxy possibly looking at a 1:11 flat here if he keeps this momentum up, or if he even sees this lap out. He's just coming round for the final few corners now before that long straight towards the finish line. Foxy now nearly a second up on his previous time, so going much faster this time on the hard tyres. Expect him to be comfortably in the 1:10s here. Here he comes around the final few corners, just over the crest now, coming across the finish line. What is it going to be? It's a 1:10.6, so it's a big improvement, that, but still quite a way off those soft runner guys. But not bad, that, on the hard tyres.
No, not at all, as Burmaster goes up into 7th position on his second run after that first one, of course, was scrubbed off with that excursion onto the grass on the exit of turn 8. But we'll see. Where else? We've got Harry back out on track, and Harry currently sitting at the top of the table, or top of the standings so far, with 10 minutes and 30 seconds left to go, and he's fractionally slower than his original time, 0.04 of a second over, so he'll need to increase somewhat, but he's got a bit of traffic up the road, so that might hinder him somewhat. There's a McLaren just up the road from him. It might be it gets out the way. Nicely done there for what I believe is could be Warrislander or Meg Luckily, both of them on an outlap, but we'll see if that's put Harry off as he comes around this tight and twisty section, turn 8, 9 into turn 10. Now you go down the hill, another corner that's slightly off camber, can catch you out. Don't touch the curb on either side, really, because it can really bottom the car out. Into Xiangkao at turn 12 to climb the hill, power down, get it down as early as possible without spinning those tyres up, and Harry's going to have a long climb up the hill. Unfortunately, he's no one really there to give him a nice long tow up the hill, and it looks like he's lost quite a bit of time there, and Harry is done a 1:10, so that's not going to be great for the Williams driver. He's going to need to improve, but plenty more time to do so.
John Polanin is now crossing line for his first timed lap of the evening. He jumps straight up into second place with a 1:8.5. And I just want to point out as well, Hercules went out on his second flying run and invalidated very early on and completely bailed out of that lap. So at the moment, Hercules dropping down to third. Boy better know, he's up there now in 4th place. But the moment it's a little bit of a struggle there for Hercules, as now Beck 9000 replaces Hercules in 3rd place now. A good lap there for the Racing Point driver, a 1:8.6. So at the moment, if you look, just excluding Harry for a second, at the moment from 2nd down to 6th is incredibly tight at the moment, just a couple of tenths between them. So yeah, this is a good session so far for the Racing Point, currently in 2nd and 3rd place.
Absolutely, great lap there from Beck, and he'll be delighted with that one. Actually, get himself up into the 2nd row of the grid in 3rd position. LER Luke here coming up the main straight to come across the line. Can he set a decent time? He was up by quite a bit. He's going to go up from 10th up into 6th position, and he gets himself up into the 1:08s there. So as you say, it's very close between there. You've got a 3/10 gap between Jumperline and in 2nd and Morrislander in 7th there. So that shows just how competitive it is here, and equally with the track being so short, these guys really need to make the most of their time out there as Meg comes across the line.
Good lap.
Up into 6th for the McLaren there, the McLaren driver. That's a decent one from Meg. He'll be pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, it was a good lap. I was riding on board with Meg. He looked comfortable all the way around, and it just shows you, doesn't it? If you can get within them 108s, you could find yourself right in the mix here. But at the moment, with just over 7 minutes left on the clock, Harry, which no disrespect to him, surprisingly finds himself still at the top of the standings. As there you go, Warrislander now decides to make a mark and try and get a bit closer, but it's not that close. It's still about 3/10 off. Warrislander jumps up into second place, more like what we expected, and it's a bit closer now. But at the moment, Hercules, I don't know what you think. Is he out of position at the moment? Down in 5th place, he's just crossing the line now to start his next flying lap. Hopefully, for his sake, he doesn't invalidate on this one. It'd be interesting to see where he now drops down to 6th place. And there you go. We spoke about White Fountain and how good he is around this track. White Fountain takes 2nd place with a 183 there. So they are edging close to Harry at the moment. So Harry won't be sitting too comfortably on there, as Hercules in the first sector is just over a tenth up, so it'll be fascinating to watch Hercules see if he can improve and see if he can get any closer to Harry here.
Yeah, we're riding on board with the German driver here, and he's lifted off a little bit into some of these corners. We'd expect him to go a little bit better until he was slow into turn 4, had to lift off the throttle. It looked like he ran a little bit deep, so it's possibly cost him a little bit of time in the second sector. We'll see, can he improve on this time? It's a 1:08.644 he's currently running at. He's going to come across the line. He's just a smidge under 3/10 faster, so he's got to get that power down up the hill. Where can he put himself? Will he start to compete within the guys? He needs to get himself ahead of title rival Jumperline, who's in 4th position. Hercules comes across the line. Can he move up? He is up onto the front row of the grid. It's only a 1:08.3, so Harry's first time lap actually becoming a lot harder for these guys to get past. So is there a possibility that the track is getting colder and it's maybe not helping these guys that are out there on the soft tyres?
Possibly so. It just shows you, doesn't it? I'm right on board with Burmeister now. He's got a lovely tow there from White Fountain to help him across the finish. Where is that going to put him? He keeps him in 10th place. Unfortunately, Burmeister didn't go any quicker, so Burmeister stays in 10th. But yeah, that lap from Harry. Harry now on a new flying lap. He's just slightly slower in the first sector, Harry, but yeah, you could be quite right there. The times and the tracks just might be just too cold now for these soft tyres, and that early lap from Harry looks like at the moment to be a bit unbeatable, but knowing my luck, I've probably put the jinx on it. So I'm riding on board with Harry at the moment just to keep an eye and see if he can go any quicker. Oh, there's a big snap there. He did very well to keep hold of the car. I can't imagine that will make him go any quicker. He's just going to come up now to the end of the second sector. What is he going to... Yeah, and he's still down now. He'll do well. It's just under a tenth down, so he'll do well to find time going up this hill. So it doesn't look like at the moment Harry is going to improve on that time what he set really early on as he bails. He bails out of that lap.
Yep, Scott bails out of it too. Jumperlinen's going slower. Beck is going slower. Jumperlinen was fractionally slower, so he needs to make up some time, but he's bailed out of that one as well. Only 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session. The times are not improving for a lot of these drivers, so it looks as though Harry, he's got that quite comfortable 2/10 of a second lead at the moment, so we'll check to see if where is Beck. Beck's going for another one, so he's had a decent tow up the back straight from the Toro Rosso, so can he no, I can't. He's 9.2 seconds slower. Yeah. He's obviously going for a second run there. Must have slowed down much, quite a distance actually in the third sector. Oh, he's lost it on the exit of the Senna S's, the exit of turn 3 there, and yeah, that's put him into the grass, and that one's scrubbed off for him. He's currently in 6th position. It's a good qualifying session for him. We saw him qualify well in Singapore, but unfortunately fall back and fall foul of a little bit of contact between himself and Warrislander, which ended his race early. We've got Meg Lugby and Luke out on track at the moment, so we'll go on board with Meg in the McLaren. He often doesn't like it when we go on board with him because he tends to make mistakes, but we're all watching. The eyes of the world are watching you, Meg. Keep it going, get out that hill and get it across the line. Will he improve on this time, a 1:08.7 he's currently sitting on, and McLaren doesn't. He decides to bail out of that one and into the pit lane. So that leaves up to Luke here, and Luke equally coming up the hill on the exit of the final corner coming up, and he is going to stick with this one. So we're actually going to get a time black. Luke goes up from 10th position, and he doesn't go any faster either. So these guys really starting to struggle. We've got Adrian Lockdock, who is on his first lap. He looks to be going... it's very hard to tell if they're going at qualifying speed or not. You call a slight snap from the back end there, the Renault driver and the Spaniard. He's currently in 15th position. We want to be moving forward, and Adri, he's had a bit of an off season this one round. He of course had a fantastic race in Bahrain last season, unable to do so this year. So Adri will be looking at improving this time. He's currently slowly making his way up the hill, ready to start a timed lap, I would imagine. And Sab, have we got anything else going on track?
Well, I was watching Warrislander, and he went purple first sector. He was absolutely flying. And at one point in the second sector, he was nearly 4 tenths up on his time, but unfortunately lost a couple of tenths in the third sector. He ended up improving. It's jumped him up to P3, 1,000th of a second behind Hercules. 1,000th of a second. That's how close it was. It was a very good lap for Warrislander, but ultimately, just nobody can get near that time of Harry at the moment. They're still around 2 tenths off Harry's time with just about a minute and a half left on the clock. Can anybody get any closer? Warrislander has proven just now that you can go quick around here, but can anybody else do it?
Yeah, Hercules can, as he goes across the line, and he takes provisional pole position as it stands with a minute and 20 seconds left to go in the session. He was going quick, but he made up an extra tenth going up the hill, so he gets into the 1:08 flats here. It was a good point made by Foxy Red off the off-team radio, where he says that a lot of drivers are running a wet setup in qualifying, which is why, of course, we're not seeing times that are lighting up the session. So that could be a reason why we're seeing a lot of drivers going a little bit slower than what we thought they should be. He said it feels like you're driving around with a damaged front wing because you've got so much downforce on that car, and we'll see what the Alfa Romeo drive can do. He's currently sitting in 14th position on a 1:10.3, so quite far off a decent qualifying position for the Alfa Romeo driver, who exits Junção up the hill through turn 13 into turn 14. DRS wide open. What can he do? Can he get himself further up into the top 10? It's only 12th position for Foxy, so that high downforce setup is definitely hindering that straight line spin. It's only a 1:9 flat for him.
I'm riding on board now with John Polainen, our championship leader. What can he do? He's a 10th up in the first sector. This might be very interesting. Oh, as Charlie has just about managed to join the session here. So Charlie in the session, but unfortunately for Charlie, he's going to be starting right at the back. But yeah, John Polainen now. He's up at the moment. Can he get any closer to Hercules' time? I'd be fascinated to see if these two were on the front row. He's going to come around these last few corners of the second sector. Is he going to be any quicker? We'll find out shortly. He might even benefit from a tow here. He is quicker. It's 2.5 tenths up. And you would imagine, I can't see what car ahead of him now, but he should get a slight tow here. And this will no doubt benefit him humongously as that car peels off into pits. Here he comes now. He's going to cross the line. Where is this going to put John Polainen? John Polainen only P3. Only P3 for John Polainen. He will be on the second row behind Hercules. But yeah, this is real mouthwatering, and it just shows you, doesn't it, how good that lap was early on from Harry. Harry didn't ever really get any improvement on that, and he manages to stay in P2, and I think he'll be delighted at that, won't he? Because he's often moaned about his qualifying performance this season, and to split the two championship contenders, that's some good going.
Well, you say that. He did actually improve on his time fractionally, and heartbreakingly for Harry, who has, as you said, has struggled in qualifying. It's 2,000ths of a second from matching Hercules' time, and 3,000ths from taking pole position. So that is... Oh, it's just eye-wateringly close between those two, and Harry really seems to have it locked in tonight. So perhaps he's running less downforce than a lot of these drivers that have possibly set up for the rain when it comes later in the race. So Yeah, but it's Hercules that gets himself into the position he needs to be in, and perhaps he was throwing us a dummy last week when he said he wasn't particularly comfortable in Brazil, but Jumpalainen, he came through from 15th on the grid to take third position last week. This time he is starting in third position, but you can see there Hercules takes pole position, a 108.099, 2 thousandths of a second between himself and his fellow front row sitter Harry. Jumpline is in third with Horslander, making fourth his own in the qualifying and the race, seemingly. White Fountain, good result in fifth. Beck 9000, equally good result in there in sixth. Meg is in seventh. Speed Queen eighth. Scott in ninth with Luke in 10th. Klaska is behind in 11th with Foxy, Burmeister, Alex and Adri rounding out the final positions, and then hopefully in 16th position we'll have FPL Charlie, who will be joining us for the race. And I mean, if you're Hercules, you were watching Harry coming up that hill, and you can see that time coming off, and I bet he's counting his lucky stars that he's not starting with Jumpalainen right next to him, because at least now he can watch what his title rival is doing from directly behind him. But into turn one, of course, we've got blue skies around at the moment, but we know they will be clouding. We'll be getting some rain later in the session. What's going through your mind right now if you're Hercules? You know that you've got to outscore Jumpalainen. You could do with Jumpalainen dropping quite a decent amount of points as well to keep this championship really going into Mexico next week. So what's your mindset if you're Hercules?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I would just focus on my own race and focus on getting off the line cleanly and still in first place, and then just do your own race, drive, and just try and bridge that gap from Harry or whoever's behind, and don't allow that DRS to be activated behind you, and just try and build a lead, and just hopefully things behind you happen, because at the end of the day he's done exactly what he needed to do. He's got the pole position. If he can get away cleanly, then he's doing exactly what he needs to do, and then he's just got to then rely on any incidents or jump line just having an off race. But like you say, that rain is coming, and that could be the big question mark over anything, because if the likes of Jumpline or even Hercules just leave it one lap too late thinking I'm okay, and the track gets too wet, they could find themselves buried into the wall, or the opposite effect, they could come in too early for some wet tyres or intermediate tyres and find themselves extremely slow. So I don't envy either of them at the minute trying to make these decisions coming up. But for me, if I was Hercules, I wouldn't be too worried about Jumpalainen. I would make sure I'm getting away cleanly and then just focusing on building as big a lead as possible in case there's any incidences. You've got a buffer then to work with. But it's not good for me to give Hercules advice how incredibly fast this guy is, but yeah, that's how I would do it. And you can see now the guys are readying up. Like you say, you would not believe the rain is coming, would you? Because at the moment conditions look absolutely perfect out there. So whenever this rain does come, it looks like it's going to hit the track quite quickly and quite hard. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what these guys decide to do and when best to pit, because as I found out a few races back in Italy, when it decided to rain in the F2 League, I made the decision too early to come on in for a set of soft tyres, and paid the price and found out, and ended up burying my car into the wall. And it just shows you if you time that wrong, it can cost you massively, and it could cost you huge points. So these guys have got a lot to think about, but at the moment, with the track being as dry as it is, I think you've just got to try and focus on being flat out and trying to get as far forward as possible, and not get caught up in traffic, because I wouldn't want to be caught up in traffic when it comes to the pit stop phases for tyres, because as we've seen before, if you ended up double stacking, that could lose you massively, couldn't it? So yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I couldn't call it. If you're going to ask me who's your money on, I honestly couldn't call it. As we see, Hercules now is leading around now into the final sector. I'll let you get underway and get them ready. But at the moment, it just looks like any old race, doesn't it? As we see them about to line up on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Hercules is leading us up the hill, weaving the tyres side to side, trying to get some temperature into those red-walled soft tyres around this 4.3 kilometre, 2.6 mile circuit. Of course, held in Interlagos, Brazil. Since 1972 through to 78, back after 1990. Hercules is going to have to wait a long time. You can see a lot of the cars there with Charlie at the back of the grid having to wait until he peels into his full throttle, 62% of the lap, averaging around about 42 gear changes over the lap distance. And Hercules, he's got first gear to take first and lead us down towards turn 1. Will he have Harry attacking him into the inside line, jumper line, and his title rival starts directly behind, but we're about to get penultimate race, the IRL F1 underway, and here we go. It's a great start there from Hercules. He's going to lead into the first corner, jumper line, and dreadful start, already back down into 5th position. Hercules leads the way. Oh, it's a it's a cut across the corner there for White Fountain, who may come under threat from Warrislander in 4th position. We've got a yellow flag behind. Has there been contact? Harry has already got himself up, or Harry's maintained 2nd position, sorry, but Charlie up into 11th from the back row. The grid, great start there from Mercedes.
Yeah, it was Foxy Red that lost out. I didn't see where the clash was, and I was right on board with Jumper Line, and Jumper Line just didn't get away. His car just bogged right down, and it allowed White Fountain and Warrislander to easily get the jump on him before the first corner. So, yeah, very poor start for Jumper Line, and Hercules will be looking at that and thinking, yes, this is exactly what I want, but you can't focus, like I say, too much on Jumper Line because Harry is stuck with him, hasn't he, for this first lap, and only 0.3 of a second. He's definitely got the pressure on at the moment from the Williams driver.
He has indeed, as Harry is sitting right behind Hercules as they go up the hill for the first time to round out the first lap. It doesn't look like he's quite close enough to attack the German into turn 1, but it is going to be Hercules, Harry and Fountain, your top 3 as we finish the first lap. Warrislander in 5th or 4th position, Jumper Line, and as you say, down to 5th after that poor start. That means he's got work to do. That's perfect for Hercules in this hunt for chasing down the Finn for the to take the title to the final race in Mexico next week. Charlie into the pits after the end of the first lap, so he got up to 11th position, but he must have had contact. He's into the pit lane, so yeah, Charlie into the box. That's going to put him down, but we don't, of course, you never know with safety cars, you never know with that rain period if it might bring him back into play. But where else? We've got movers. Luke up into 7th position, Speed Queen into 6th. That's a great start for Speed Queen. But Harry, he'll be pretty happy wherever he is at the moment. It seems like he's got good pace tonight.
He has so far, and yeah, just a little update. Charlie had front wing damage, and unfortunately for Charlie, that's as good a start as he's had. Unfortunately, he's dropped him right to the back end. I'm watching this super battle at the minute between Meg, Boy Better Know, and Beck at the moment, fighting over 8th place. Meg has got a very large and wide Mercedes pushing him all over this track, and Scott now, you would imagine, is going to easily get moved. Oh, they just about brush wheels there. Scott now down the inside. Is he going to late break? No, Meg just about hangs on. Runs it a little deep, but just about hangs on here. And Scott is trying to put off that McLaren as much as possible, but at the moment, because Meg is running slightly slower, it's falling away from the battle for 7th, 6th and 5th at the moment, and that's just going to start to frustrate Scott, I think, slightly, because Meg is starting to hold him up a little bit.
Yeah, the Mercedes want to be clear of that McLaren as soon as possible. As you say, there is a gap forming between Meg. It's 1.4 seconds now. And then he's got Luke up the road. Speed Queen a second back from this battle we've got between Jumper Line and Warrislander. And really, we've got almost a top 5 breakaway with the Toro Rosso and the Ferrari hoping to get involved. They're involved in their own little battle at the moment, but it is a top 5 that seem to just be stretching out a slight lead. But it's a good getaway from Hercules. He's held on to his lead 0.7 of a second at the end of lap 3. And as I said, this is exactly where he wants Jumper Line, and he wants Jumper Line and dropping points. But can we see someone going on the attack against the Red Bull driver in this first stint? It's Jumper Line deep into turn 1 there, and that's lost him a heap of time. And in fact, that's put him back into the clutches of Speed Queen. And She's had a poor season. She said last week that she's not really enjoyed it this season, but she's back up towards the head of the field, which is where we were used to seeing her. And she'll be. She's not one to relent a position, and she's equally not one to give up any sort of fight at all. So Jumpline is going to have a little bit of work to do to get out of DRS of her, I'd imagine. We've got the battle still going on between Scott and Meg Lugby. Scott yet to clear that McLaren, so clearly Meg's very slippery in a straight line and making it hard work for that Mercedes to clear him.
Yes, it is, and I just want to go back, if I may. This with Jumpalainen reminds me an awful lot of the Baku race, the Azerbaijan race. Jumpalainen was stuck in the middle, well, not say the middle, but in a pack, and he just couldn't really get anything done, could he? As we got a yellow flag in sector. Oh, and that's LER Luke. Oh,
it's
God.
Luke that lost it on the exit of Yonkau at turn 12, got onto the curb on the outside onto the grass, and unfortunately, because he went for such an excursion as Scott tries once again to get past Mug, he's going to try and go for an under and over here and get a good run with DRS down towards turn 4. DRS opens for him, swings from side to side. He's going to take the outside line into the next corner. Meg's still trying to stay with him and still battling with the Mercedes, but finally Scott manages to sweep around the outside, and Beck 9000 looking picking up the pieces for any incidents happen. But yeah, unfortunately Luke made such an excursion into the infield there that the game actually reset him back onto track. So yeah, heavy breathing there, I'd imagine, for Andrew Lockdock, who was almost caught out by the Ferrari as it got up to speed, because he went from pretty much a standing start on the exit of turn 12 there. So yeah, unfortunate for Luke. That drops him out the top 10 down into 12th position, so work to do to catch up.
It is, and just going back on what I was saying until Luke decided to try rallycross on us this evening. Jumpalainen, he's now caught back up to the back of Warsaw, but yeah, this does really remind me a lot of the race in Baku. He was stuck within a pack and just couldn't really get much done, and in the end he gained some luck and ended up I believe winning that race. So you can never rule out Jumpalainen, but at the moment, with a very speedy Warrisland in front of him, it's looking like a difficult job for the Racing Point of Jumpalainen. But yeah, while Warrisland has got DRS ahead of him, it's going to be increasingly difficult for Jumpalainen to get any moves done. He's at the moment going to probably have to rely on Warrisland to make a mistake or two.
Yep, he will indeed, as Harry is starting to reel in the leader, Hercules, and he was getting well within DRS shot of the Red Bull Head, who just can't seem to get away in this early stages. Harry, Fountain and Warrisland are all sticking with him, so unless Hercules is looking after those tyres and trying not to push too hard and maybe stretch them out to a period where we might see a little bit of rainfall, it looks as though he's going to have to contend with having this trail of cars behind him, with first through to fifth split by just around about 2.5 seconds. As you can see here, Hercules crossing the line. The two cars behind as Fountain peels to the left hand side just to let Harry know that he's there, but you can see Harry has got his eyes firmly focused on the Red Bull ahead. As what's going on, Sab?
Jumpalainen and Warrisland. Jumpalainen has got the move done into turn 1 on the Warrisland, but then Jumpalainen ran deep, and it nearly opened the door for Warrisland to come back. But Warrisland now, he's just slightly fallen away. So yeah, Jumpalainen now up into 4th place, but 1.2 seconds behind White Fountain. And let's just point out as well, White Fountain, look how close he is to that battle at the front now. It's just under half a second behind Harry. So White Fountain having a superb race tonight, and much what we expect from White Fountain.
Yeah, we know that he does well here in Brazil. We know he enjoys the track, so expect to see him challenging. And equally, like we said, he won here in the mixed conditions last season, so he is adept to winning here in the rain. So he'll be pretty comfortable where he is, and knowing that he's got the pace to run here in the rain. So in fact, he's got a good run on Harry ahead. He's not quite close enough to make a lunge into turn 1, but you can see he's thinking about it. Oh, he's close right up to the back of the Williams there, but not quite close enough to get the move done. Now, don't run out wide. Very easy to pick up some track extension penalties on the exit of the centre S's here, but once again sits in the toe of that Williams, as the Williams, I'm sure White Fountain would be slightly dismayed about the fact that essentially Harry's being towed along by Hercules ahead, and Hercules equally would be hoping these two behind start getting involved in their battle between themselves, so he can make a breakaway and get out of DRS, because, well, with White Fountain looking as though he's got the pace at the moment, that he's going to want to really get a shift on, because Jumpalainen looks as if he wants to reclaim that third position that he, of course, lost off the line.
Yeah, definitely, and that is also then dragging along Warrisland, and Warrisland is just about hanging on under the 1 second mark to Jumpalainen. So at the moment we are having a 5-car battle for the lead here. They're all within a second of each other. Warrisland, as I say, just about hanging on, and he will pick up DRS. He's just slightly tailing off from Jumpalainen, but he is hanging on in there, and White Fountain now ever so closer now, but yeah, just to quite make us. Jumpalainen, there he shows he's now starting to put the hammer down, isn't he? He picks up the fastest lap. Harry under a little bit of pressure here from White Fountain, but as you say, there you go, the first time penalty we've seen so far tonight from Boy Better Know. Harry getting pulled along, and at the moment this top 5 is all being cancelled out, isn't it? Because they've all got DRS on each other, and what a job I'd say Hercules is doing at the moment, because he's the only guy in this top 5 who doesn't have DRS, because he's the lead guy, and he's managing to keep the likes of Harry and White Fountain at bay for now. So at the moment it's a good job for Harry, but for Hercules, but yeah, this DRS just isn't quite working out for the rest of the guys behind.
No, not at all. And like we said, a few of them might be running heavier downforce setups with the rain due to come later in the session. And just want to take note of the fact that in 6th and 7th position we've got Speed Queen versus Boy Bed No OSB. Now, if you've not watched Invictus before, and you've not watched the formerly No Assist League and now the IRL F1 League, you'd know that's two titans there going at each other who have had absolutely fantastic battles against each other in the past years and past games gone by. So as soon as we can come away from this lead battle, we will try and tune in on that, because it is great fun watching Speed Queen and Scott go at each other. They are fantastic racers, as you can see Harry still closing in on Hercules ahead, and he's got within 0.2 of a second now, and in fact he's closer to Hercules than White Fountain was, and Fountain was challenging Harry before, but you can see perhaps the tyres are starting to fall away from Hercules, who's leading the pack. But of course he is punching a hole through the air, so although he'll be losing off on downforce, his tyres won't be getting as affected, that hot dirty air. And there is that telltale sign, that flicker on the screen that says rain is coming, and spots of rain are already falling in Sector 3. You can see why they've stuck it out so long on these soft tyres. They want to think about going straight onto the intermediates, and we've got quite heavy rain already falling on the main straight here. But these guys, it really depends on how quickly this comes now, because they're going to have to think about it. Harry is starting to close on Hercules. Is he going to think about into turn 1? Not quite, but he's really closing in on the German, and Hercules is going to have a real fight on his hands. And with the track getting ever slipperier every lap, every corner, it'll be getting slicker. This is where you make your money, isn't it? Because it's so easy to make a mistake.
Oh, it is. I don't envy these guys whatsoever. Just point out the battle between Boy Better Know and Speed Queen, as you mentioned earlier. Boy Better Know has now managed to get the jump on Speed Queen, and now he's up into 6th place. So, yeah, what do these guys do? Warrislander, by the way, has dropped right off this chasing pack. He's now 1.5 seconds. So is he really starting to feel the effects of worn tyres and a damp track? I'm riding on board with him at the moment, and he's really fighting that McLaren to keep it on. So do they come in? Does he come in now and maybe gamble it, or does he try and stick it out? There's a lot of ifs, buts right now, isn't it? Who's going to be the first one to jump? The chasing pack now with Hercules are all coming up. Is any of them going to peel into pits? Yes, they are. Is he? No, he's not. He teased me, Hercules, there. He looked like he was coming in, but he was trying to get the straightest line possible. Harry sticking to the back of him. And one thing as well you've got to be careful of is you don't want to get your braking point points wrong, do you, in these conditions? Because if you slightly brake later than in a dry condition and you do it in damp conditions, you find yourself burying yourself into the back of the car ahead. So this is really testing conditions now, as Warrislander is the first to jump. Warrislander in on intermediates, and Bet 9000 is also in for a set of intermediates. So it'll be really interesting to see what Warrislander does now as he's coming out of the pits. Can he improve on these intermediate tyres, or is he coming too soon?
This is brilliant. A four-way battle for the lead of the race. We're 12 laps in out of 36, and we've got 4 of the fastest drivers here in F1 going toe-to-toe with each other. It's a fatal four-way. Only one of them can come out as the victor. And currently, it's Warris who, on those intermediate tyres, has immediately lost it. It just doesn't look wet enough for those tyres to work, and I imagine the safety car has now been deployed. Now, this is huge because it doesn't look wet enough for the intermediates to come out. But do they pit in this lap and hope the safety car stays out long enough? And into the pit lane they all do come. So, yeah, they've all decided that although it may not be the right conditions yet, that when the safety car comes back in, that we will be in intermediate conditions. So really unfortunate for Warrislander, but a massive plus for these guys. They can make effectively a free pit stop. Harry jumps Hercules in the pit lane, does he? Oh no, he doesn't. It looks as though the Williams have got out ahead, but yeah, possibly an unsafe release there. as we see the Red Bull just holds on to his lead, and everyone else coming into the pit lane as they should do behind the safety car, and neutralizes the race. There you go. They'll pick up the safety car at the end of the straight, and it will be Hercules leading from Harry, Fountain and Jumper Linen, and that huge gap between themselves and Boy Ben No, 7.2 seconds, will be eradicated, so it'll close everyone back up again. And now we go from the battle of who can do well in the dry, as we saw those 4 really starting to pull away, to who has got the nerve to keep it on the black stuff in the rain.
Yes, definitely. And I just want to say, Warrislander, he lost it out of turn 5, and unfortunately, front right wheel came off, and yeah, it just shows that gamble of just coming in too soon, maybe pushed too hard on cold intermediate tyres and not so wet conditions, and unfortunately it's put him out of the race, and it's backed the pack right up now. And what this has also done, this has benefited Charlie, hasn't it? Charlie, who had to come in really early on for that front wing change, now can get to the back of the pack again finally, and finally try and work his way, if he can, back into the top 10 where he was very nearly at within the first few laps. So this has really benefited Charlie. But yeah, this is going to be also fascinating, is when the safety car just come in, these guys are going to be trying desperately to keep these tyres as warm as possible, aren't they? Because the last thing you want to be doing is going into this first corner with cold tyres in these conditions, because yeah, you could find yourself going very deep into it, or losing a front wing or spinning or anything. So these are really tricky times at the moment. As you can see now, the rain is visibly getting heavier. This is a question, do these conditions stay like this so intermediates work, or are they going to get wetter to the point where the wet tyres are going to have to come out? These are all questions that we'll soon find out. It'll be interesting to see how long this safety car does stay out for. The Warrislander's car has been cleared by the looks of it, yes, so you'd imagine any time now the safety car should be coming in, as Charlie's just coming up to the back of the pack now. So yeah, I think once he's caught up to the back of the pack, I would imagine we'll be going back racing again. But yeah, this is going to be absolutely fascinating. These guys have gone on brand new intermediate tyres in these conditions. I wouldn't want to be out there right now trying to pick my points of when to brake, or pick my points of when to try and overtake, or feel brave here, because you could easily find yourself out of the race in a click of a fingers.
No, absolutely not. And as you say, the rain is starting to come down heavy. Of course, the intermediate tyre is a very dynamic tyre. It's brilliantly designed so that it can clear a lot of water. It works well in this sort of slippery surface, but the safety car is in this lap. Everyone has bunched up, and unfortunately, I believe Beck 9000 actually lost some positions under the safety car after spinning on the exit of Young Cal. But we're going to have this safety car restart. Hercules is going to have to hold right back and let that safety car come into the box. He's going to have to wait until the last minute to go. He comes up the hill and it looks as though he's put the power down, and off we go with the restart. And Hercules takes a decent jump on Harry ahead, and he's already got himself a seconds gap as we cross the line. And who else we've got? We've got Scott is now thinking about jumper line and into turn 1 and turn 2. Jumper line just holds him off, but Scott, he's got much better traction here on the exit of the Senna S's. Will he make a run on the racing point down in towards turn 4? He's thinking about it, decides against it, pulls back in, but he's sticking with it. Jumper line and possibly caught out on that restart. And that's allowed Scott to close in, but you can see, it's in the background. We've got the Alfa Romeo going wide, and that was Foxy Red, and it's Klaske, but looks like he's lost the car, almost got into his teammate Foxy Red, but looks as though he's just about kept it in a straight line.
God, it was looking through the fingers there for Klaske, as Eliar Luke is the next guy to struggle on these intermediate tyres. He's had a spin, but yeah, Klaske, I do not know how he didn't collect his teammate there. That was so close. He found an excursion across the grass, and somehow he's managed to keep it going. He's right behind his teammate now, as Foxy Red is trying to harry and press Adrian Lockdock. But as you say, what a start it is for Hercules. Harry over a second behind him already, so yeah, it's all pressure is at the moment on John Polina, because boy better know he's staying right on the back of that racing point.
Foxy Red, of course, said in the qualifying session that he was running a very heavy, wet setup, so he's going to have this advantage. You can see almost pushing the Renault of Adrian Lockdown around the corner, and this is a potential for a double move here with Burmeister in 8th position. Foxy Red's going to get a decent tone or two, thinking about going to the outside line, but he's going to have to think better against it and just stick with it. You can see he's trying to find out the inner workings of that Renault, see if he can get any quicker, and he's just pushing the Renault up the hill, desperate to get past. You can see that he's got much more grip in these conditions compared to the guys ahead. But Foxy's got a lot of work to do. Behind, we've got White Fountain 0.3 of a second behind Harry. Harry already falling back from Hercules, so Hercules enjoying these wet conditions better. Foxy Red thinking, is he going to make a cheeky dive to the inside? No, he thinks better of it there, but it looks as though Foxy Red might be have a few things to say with a couple of overtakes later in this race. But we'll go on board with Fountain as they're on the main straight now. He's lost 0.3 of a second on the exit, Young Cal there, so that's going to cost him the opportunity really of overtaking. Of course, DRS not available in wet conditions. Into the pit lane comes Scott. Now, is he the first one to go for the extreme wet tyres? We know that it's going to full wet. Does that little eye go blue in a few seconds time? Is he the first one to make that jump onto the extreme wets? They shift a lot of water.
And it's a drive-through penalty. He's got a drive-through penalty.
It is, so a drive-through penalty for Scott, so that's unfortunate. That's going to drop him right back. He was doing superbly well with that restart, but as Beck picks up 3 seconds there, Meg Lugby is challenging with Speed Queen for 6th and 5th position, so those two running well in the top 5 and top 6. Foxy is still behind Adrian and Burmeister, so we'll see if he can clear him. You can see still sitting there, and in fact he's pulling along. Is there contact? There is contact between the Alfa Romeo and CPI Alex behind, and that's turned the second Alfa Romeo of Klaske around, so Alex just getting into the rear end of the Alfa Romeo ahead, and that's turned Klaske around, dropped him down to 13th. Alex is up into 10th position as Foxy trying to go around the outside of the Renault. What a move from the Alfa Romeo driver around the outside of turn 11 there of Mugello, and Foxy can finally get on with pushing up towards Burmeister, who's managed to scamper up the road a little bit. Fountain still challenging to get up behind Harry as they start lap 18 of 36. We're halfway done of this race, and here comes Fountain. He's got a good run on Harry, probably the best run he's had so far in the race, but unable to get the move done. He's going to think about the under and over, but in the wet it's very hard as Luke picks up 3 seconds of time penalties there. Fountain just about having to hold on to 3rd position. Welcome to everyone joining the stream tonight. Great to have you on board. Let us know who you're after, what you're watching, who you're rooting for. Great to have have you here. Of course, if you're enjoying it, guys, make sure you hit that like button if you're not already. Subscribe to the channel for more races here in the IRL F1 League every Monday night, 8 p.m. And of course, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, we race in the Realistic Performance. Tuesday nights and of course, Wednesday nights is the IRL F2 and F3 leagues, all fully commentated here on YouTube. So make sure, if you're not already, press that subscribe button and ding the bell to be notified every time we go live. But yeah, if you're loving it as much as we are, guys, let us know. Always great to see you chatting in the comments and enjoying the streams. And we'll see if White Fountain can enjoy this exit out of Young Cow as he runs up the hill, chasing down Harry, closing in on the Williams driver. He pulls the inside, lets him know he's there, but once again not able to get close enough to send it down the inside. You have to be pretty brave. It's an off-camber left-hander down a hill. Of course, it's almost a blind apex, but you can see Fountain, he's had a much better run out of the centre S's. Is what's happened, Sab.
Foxy and Burmeister have clashed into turn 1, into turn 2, and Foxy has been the one who's suffered from it, and it spun him out. It reminded me ever so much of the Esteban Ocon Max Verstappen moment in the Brazilian Grand Prix, where you ended up having Max spin out, and unfortunately because of the conditions, it was the lightest of touches, and it just sent Foxy spinning. Unfortunately, Foxy has dropped down into 13th place, and unfortunately as well for the Alfa Romeo team, it's just been a real off day for them. They're now both down in 12th and 13th, and Burmeister looks like he's got away with that unscathed. He doesn't appear to have any damage to his car, so Burmeister stays in 7th, and unfortunately Foxy now drops down into 13th. But that does, I just want to point out as well, that does now promote Charlie up into 9th. Charlie's having a decent race now since he's been able to catch the pack up through the safety car. He's in 9th place, man, just 1.5 seconds behind Adrian Lockdock in the Renault.
Scott in 15th position as White Fountain tries to go to the outside line on Harry. Can he get the move done? He's going to have the inside for the next corner. He does finally get that move done. Fountain, great move around the outside into turn 1. Gets past Harry. He needed to get it done because Jumpalainen was starting to become a threat to the pair of them. In fact, Jumpalainen now, he's going to start to shape up the back of the Williams ahead, because Harry can feasibly go from 2nd to 4th if he's not too careful. But yeah, Scott into the pit lane. He's the first one to go onto the extreme wet tyres. He's testing out those extreme wets. But whilst this battle between Harry and Fountain was going on, it's a 2.7 second gap for Hercules now, who's managed to get up the road a comfortable distance now. So it's pretty well. A decent, since the safety car restart for Hercules, 2.7 second gap. That's just about enough to feel comfortable that you don't have to sit there looking in your mirrors every single corner or so, and he can focus on looking solely ahead, whilst you can see Fountain already starting to make up time on Harry. And we've said it already in the race, Fountain very, very comfortable here in the rain. So look to see the Belgium possibly reining in this lead that Hercules has currently got. So let's see if that time does go down over the next few laps now that the Belgian driver has cleared Harry. Equally, Jumpalainen starting to look racy behind Harry. Harry lost the position to White Fountain last lap. Will he lose 3rd position this lap? Looks like Jumpalainen is not quite close enough on the exit of turn 3 there, but he's going to have to stick behind. But Harry struggling a little bit in these wet conditions.
Just a little update on Scott. I think he may have come in too soon for those wet condition tyres. He's really struggling out there, and he's not really improving on his previous times on the intermediate tyres. I get the gamble, I really do. It was a brave gamble. I think it was a bit too soon. I'm keeping an eye on the battle for 7th at the moment. Burmeister in 7th. He's 2.7 seconds behind Meg, but at the moment he's got Adrian Lockdock really near, and Scott has retired from the session. That gamble has not paid off for him. But yeah, as Adrian Lockdock is right on the gearbox of the Ferrari driver Burmeister, and Adrian Lockdock, he's bringing along Charlie flying at the moment. He's doing really well, and he's not too far behind his CPI Alex either. We've got a safety car. We have a safety car. We're
back under safety car once again due to the retirement from Scott, and back into the pit lane. This is working perfectly for everyone this evening, isn't it? Back into the pit lane for what can only be imagined is going to be the extreme wet tyres. And so you said
Yeah.
Scott came in too early. Everyone else, once again, is going to use the fact that someone else made a decision to come in early for the wet tyres. And there we go, on comes the blue walled extreme wet tyres. They shift a huge volume of water every rotation, so they don't have to worry. But of course, puddles are, you can see offline, puddles are starting to form. Aquaplaning, a huge problem if you're a racing car driver. Whether you race in Formula 1, whether you race on two wheels, whether you race on a Sunday afternoon in your own car, it's aquaplaning.
Whoa.
What have we got?
Adrian locked up. I don't know what he was doing there. Him and Charlie have stayed out on the intermediate tyres. Apologies for interrupting. But he caught up to the back of the safety car, and then the safety car pulled away, and Adri just decided to not carry on driving and caused nearly a huge pile-up at turn 5. Charlie nearly ran into the back of him, with Hercules not far behind either. So, yeah, this is fascinating. I just want to point out, you've got Adri, Charlie, CPI Alex, White Fountain's coming on a new set of intermediates, Foxy on a set of intermediates, Classic on a set of intermediates, and Lucas. So you've got mixed choices out there. Who is going to be right? So you've got the leader, Hercules, who you'd think is the safe option going on to those wet tyres, because riding on board with him now, it looks torrential, the rain out there. But if this rain just stays heavy for a little bit and then starts to ease off a bit, those intermediate runners could end up benefiting here. It could swing a completely different way, but at the moment we've got a new leader of the race, and that is Adri.
Adri is, we'll see, does he peel into the pit lane? He does. So he decides it's time for the extreme wets. Charlie sticks out with it though into the pit lane, because Alex, of course, just about gets it slowed down. But Alex, of course, couldn't come in due to Speed Queen having preference on track, as Burr unfortunately picks up 5 seconds speeding into the pit lane. But you can Charlie sticking out there on intermediate tyres, so that's an interesting choice. And yeah, as you alluded to, it's, White Fountain deciding to go for a second set of the intermediates. Now, does he know something that everyone else doesn't? But you can see the rain is really starting to come down. It's looking as though we're going to be going to extreme wet tyres. You can see that even that drying line is very, very, very slowly dissipating from the track, and the entire surface is becoming pretty treacherous. And you can see the spray is going to be really substantial. And the puddles, you can already see just the puddles forming on offline. So these guys are going to really struggle if they're out there on the intermediate tyres. They're going to have to keep it right on the racing line, off of the curbs as well, because of course in the rain those curbs are going to be like absolute sheet ice with the painted sections. And the rain, as Burmust unfortunately leaves us this evening, unfortunately picked up that penalty just a few corners ago with speeding in the pit lane. He's in 14th position, so he's dropped out behind. We've got an overtake with Adri Lockdock, I believe, must have lost control because he's dropped down behind CPI Alex and Luke. So Adri, safety car is in this lap, so we're going green once again. It's going to be Charlie leading the field with what some people were thinking will be his teammate Hercules, and the guy that is going for the championship in second position, who's got a big, a pretty decent size amount of cars between himself and championship leader jumping on in sixth. But off goes Charlie. Now, does he peel off and allow Hercules into the lead? This is where we'll see if he has the... no, he's decided against it. He's going to stick with it on inside line. Behind, we've got Hercules looking though he took a very tight line. Behind, we've got a deep line there from the McLaren and McLugby. He's going to lose positions. He went very deep into turn 1.
I thought Charlie were going to just chop off the front end of Hercules there. He went quite deep, but just about hang on. And this intermediate tyres just don't seem to be working. And at the moment, he's holding up Hercules, his potential future teammate. And White Fountain on those intermediate tyres seems to be, at the moment, hanging on to the back of Hercules on those wet tyres. So can White Fountain pull off what would be an absolute miraculous strategy call here? But at the moment, Charlie just seems to be the cork in the bottle and is holding up Hercules. But Hercules is really struggling on those wet tyres because he's not really pulling away from White Fountain on the intermediate tyres, and Foxy Red is not far behind either. So it's really tough at the minute to call who's made the right decision.
It is. I think it's in that very strange window between the intermediate and the extreme wet. So Fountain looked as though he was he had a good getaway on the exit of the safety car, but you can see he's starting to lose time on the exit of slow corners, like Young the final corner, and he's already dropped back to 8/10 of a second. He was right up behind, so Fountain is going to struggle. Charlie's going to struggle as we got a yellow in sector 1, and it's already we're back under VSC. So it's Klasky and Meg Lugby have come together. Must have been down the main straight because they hadn't got to turn 1 by now. So we've already had 2 safety cars. Now the race has been neutralised, and we're back under. As unfortunately, Klasky retires from the session in 12th position after contact between himself and Meg Lugby. So the race has been neutralised. We're under yellow. Cars have to, of course, go down to a percentage of their original race lap. But in the rain, it's a lot harder. But it looks as though we're back to green. There you go. The light boards, the LED boards on the side of the track are back to green. So we're back off and underway. Foxy Red has done very nicely. As we said, he'd run that wet setup. He's out there up in 4th position, but he's of course yet to stop onto a new set of tyres. You can see, look at the wheel spin he's getting on the as soon as he gets on the power. Surely these guys on the intermediates going to have to think about coming in and stopping for the extreme wets, because you could hear that he was really struggling to get the power down there. So unfortunately, although making his way up to 4th position, these intermediate runners look as though they might have to admit defeat and come in for those extreme wets.
You say that, but White Fountain is somehow staying onto the back of Hercules. Now Hercules makes a move for first place. Charlie's not going to tackle that whatsoever, and Hercules reclaims first place off of Charlie. And now Hercules, what can he do with a clean run on these wet tyres, or can Charlie stick with him? Because at the moment White Fountain is just about hanging in there on intermediate tyres, and Hercules hasn't really at the moment pulled away from Charlie. So still I believe it's just too difficult to call who's the best. Oh, a bit of a snap there from Charlie, but Charlie just hang on. But yeah, the moment it may be the case that Foxy Red is on 13 lap old tyres, and he might have just took too much out of those intermediates early on. But at the moment, White Fountain is only half a second behind Charlie now. Charlie also on 13 lap intermediate tyres. He's starting to fall away from Hercules. And what does Charlie do here? Does Charlie hold up White Fountain and allow Hercules to pull a gap, or will he be able to even hold White Fountain back? Because White Fountain seems to be very racing. It's Jumpline and Harry now. Jumpline and Harry have swapped positions further back, and that's allowed Jumpline to jump up to 5th place. And Jumpline almost got the move done on Foxy as well. It's a super battle here for 4th place. You've got nearly 5-car battle for 4th.
And here comes Jumper Line, and he's going to have better traction out the final corner on the Alfa Romeo, who's stuck out there on the intermediate tyres. Jumper Line and closing in. He's right in the slipstream. Foxy goes to the inside. Oh, there's contact between Jumper Line and the wall. He's lost the front left end plate of that car, and he's going to lose downforce. And in fact, he's trying to take the position, and himself and Foxy are still side by side. Jumper Line having to take to the runoff area as Beck. We're back under virtual safety car. The second racing point of Beck retires from the race in 10th position. So both racing points involved in incidents within fractions of a second of each other. Foxy darting to the left-hand side, trying to block the move from Jumpline, who looked as though he'd already committed to the inside. Unfortunately, there was contact between the two, and well, if racing in the wet conditions was hard enough, doing it with a damaged front wing is going to make it even harder. So as Meg picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC, so that's a hard one to take. And but yeah, Jumper Line, and I'm sure will feel slightly aggrieved with his Alfa Romeo counterpart.
Yeah, as we now go back green, that was a quick VSC, as White Fountain now is even closer to Charlie. And I think White Fountain, if he's going to get this strategy to work, he's got to clear out Mercedes as soon as possible. He's right onto the back of Charlie. Charlie's struggling to keep hold of it. Charlie really falling away from Hercules now, nearly 3 seconds, so his tyres are starting to really go away. But if White Fountain wants to make his work, he needs to get it done now. And at the moment, he's not quite close enough, so these intermediate tyres just about hanging on in there. But it looks like Hercules has, now he's got clean air, has made the correct call, as it's now over nearly 3.5 seconds. So it just shows you, doesn't it, what type of cork Charlie was in the bottle, because as soon as Hercules got away, he's absolutely flown away. And the moment White Fountain will be getting incredibly frustrated behind that Mercedes, because he knows he may have had an opportunity to try and stick to the back of Hercules, but unfortunately, while he stays stuck behind behind Charlie, that gap's just going to keep increasing, and now it's already up to 4 seconds. So, yeah, Hercules is doing the perfect job at the moment on those wet tyres.
He is indeed. 4 seconds. The gap between Charlie and Fountain now sits around half a second behind. Foxy Red is now starting to accrue a pretty sizable amount of cars behind him, with Harry in 5th position, Jump Line in 6th, and Speed Queen in 7th, all eyeing up that position. Of course, Foxy Red, 15 laps he's done, the same as Charlie on those intermediate tyres, and they think about going to the end of it. It'd be a pretty tall order, because the conditions are looking pretty tricky. You can see just how Foxy's struggling to get the power down. He went so slowly into Young Cow, and then on the exit really had to feather that throttle. Jumperlinen, he's shaping up Harry, so even after that wing damage in contact between Foxy Red and himself, he's going to send it to the outside. This is brave with a lack of front wing. He's going to go around the outside of Harry into turn 1. That's going to give him the inside line. If he can hold on to it, he's just about going to hold on to it, but Harry just holds on to the 5th position at the moment, and that's going to give Speed Queen a run on Jumperlinen. Jumperlinen's going to have to look in his mirrors, because she's thinking about it up the inside there into turn 4. Not quite close enough to get the move done, but Jumperlinen really doing nicely to stick with the pace even with that loss of downforce.
It really is. It's one hell of a job. And this battle for 4th place is doing the top 3 the world of good, isn't it? Because Foxy now is nearly 5.5 seconds behind White Fountain. So at the moment, however Foxy manages to keep these guys behind, the battle for the top 3 is getting away from everybody else. So yeah, this is going to, especially the likes of Harry and John Pines, is going to becoming increasingly frustrated. But Foxy hanging on in there on 16-old intermediate tyres. He's doing everything possible, but surely at one point he's going to lose those positions. But right now he's defending with everything he's got. He's pretty much now being pushed up the hill by Harry and that Williams. Now Harry has a real opportunity here to try and get Foxy for 4th place. He's going to have good toe across the finish line. He's going to try and send one down the inside. Here we go. Can Harry? It's just not quite close enough, I don't think. No, he isn't. Foxy defends well. Foxy goes deep though. Foxy does go deep. Can Harry just sneak one up the inside? No, he can't. And Jumperlinen's, meanwhile, still sat in 6th place, watching 4th and 5th squabbling there. But unfortunately, nobody can get behind Fox Red. And he must have made that car at least 4 metres wide, because that Alfa Romeo is proving so difficult to get past.
Harry just about saves himself from contact between himself and Jumperlinen. We've got 5 cars in a blink of an eye. The 2 Toro Rossos, Jumperlinen, Harry and Foxy Red all battling it out over 4th position. Foxy doing an absolutely sterling job to hold these guys behind. He must be really just sweating underneath that helmet. Sitting in the, you can see just how much more racing, how much more grip Harry's got out of the corners. And Foxy really having to... Oh, he's going to run Harry out wide. Harry trying to find every single inch of that track where he can find grippers. Jumperlinen is going side by side with Speed Queen. She finally gets the move done round the outside. That's the 2nd time we've seen a move done round the outside of Magello at turn 11. She gets up into 6th position. Jumperlinen relegated down to 7th. And now with CPI Alex chasing him down from behind. So perhaps that front wing damage starting to come back to haunt him. Harry falling back from Foxy Red somewhat. Speed Queen now closing in on Harry, so she's really feeling the pace heating up late in this stint. Jumperlinen, he's sandwiched in between the 2 Toro Rossos, but up ahead you've got Charlie fending off Fountain 0.3 of a second. He's doing a remarkable job on those 18-lap-old tyres to keep Fountain behind. Of course, Fountain decided to go for those second set of the intermediate tyres, so different to everyone else, and it looks like it's paying off. Perhaps he may feel that if he'd put on the wet tyres, he might have cleared Charlie sooner. So if he does manage to make it onto the podium, of course, in 6 laps' time, we'll find out. I'm sure we'll hear from him what his thoughts were. We've still got this magnificent battle going on between 4th all the way down to 8th position. Unfortunately, I believe Meg Luppy had made a mistake, because he was catching up to this group. He's now 14 seconds behind, still in the points in 9th position. Unfortunately, we've lost Warrislander, Boyben, No, Burmaster, Klasker and Beck, so we're only down to 11 runners out of 16. And we've got this trail of cars. What's going on, Sab?
I'm just riding on board with the CP Alex, and CP Alex, I don't know how he didn't lose that car then. It was nearly Tokyo Drift style in Interlagos. It pretty much sideways going up the hill, but just about hangs onto it and manages to stay onto the back of this fighting pack. But yeah, Foxy, he's doing a stellar job, isn't he? I'm sitting here shaking my head because I just cannot believe when on those 19 lap old tyres, he's managing to keep all these cars behind, and if anything, he's starting to slowly pull away from Harry. It's up to 7/10 of a second. Got a yellow flag. Oh, as Adri has lost it on the start-finish straight, and he's facing the wrong way. He's going into the pits. He was facing the wrong way into the pit entrance. So yeah, a tough race for Adri there. But yeah, Foxy, stellar job from him, and I have to say as well, stellar job from Charlie. Remember, he started on the back row because he missed qualifying, and at the moment he's in line for a podium finish. 10 seconds though behind Hercules, so it just shows you what sort of job he's managed to do on those wet tyres.
Absolutely, and that would be Charlie's first podium since the 4th round of the season in Russia, where he equally finished second. So it's been an off season since then for Charlie. He's not managed to finish higher than 5th. So yeah, he'll be looking at picking up some decent points and finishing on a podium, and 4 laps left to go in the race. He currently, Hercules now, 10-second gap between himself and Charlie. Charlie still holding off the fight from Fountain. The rain, it somewhat looks like it's, well, I say it looks like it's easy. It's raining sideways, as the famous quote goes, as you see there from the rear wing of the Haas, and he's still chasing down Charlie, but he's not able to get close enough to Charlie to get the move done. Behind Harry, he's got himself a gap between himself and Foxy. He's starting to fall back from Foxy somewhat, actually, so 2.3 seconds. Speed Queen, 7/10 of a second between himself and Harry. So himself and Harry, sorry, and so Speed Queen in 6th, Harry up in 5th position, jump line, and still involved in this battle with CPI Alex equally in 8th position. So these guys, anyone knows where they might finish because they've been swapping positions, they've been involved in a fantastic fight. Foxy Red, 20 laps he's done on those intermediate tyres, and he's started to pull away from Harry. So really good result so far for Foxy. Like what we said, he was running a wet setup. He was ready for this part of the race, this stint. So obviously it's coming into his own now, because behind Speed Queen, she's now starting to eye up Harry. So Harry's going to have to start looking behind him, because here comes Speed Queen. We've not seen a challenge for the top 5 for quite a few races. Can she get herself into it here in Brazil? And she's got what 3 laps left to do, 34, 35 and 36 to go, so she's got plenty of time to eye up the right position to get the move done. And Harry, he's going to have a lot of work to do, it looks like, because he's starting to, once again, we saw him do a little bit better at the start of the stint, but as the stint wears on, he starts to lose pace. So it's something that he'll be frustrated with after starting on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think these conditions now are more suited to intermediate tyres? Because I don't know if Hercules might be just making sure the car gets across the line, but Hercules has lost a second now to Charlie, and with Foxy pulling out 5-second gap on Harry, are the conditions now more suited to the intermediate tyre? Because at the moment, Charlie, hand over fist, is catching Hercules. Yes, it probably is a little too late now with only a couple of laps remaining, but it's down to 8 seconds now. So is these conditions now, as we've got a yellow flag in Sector 3, I don't see who that is for. It's Adri again, unfortunately. But yeah, these conditions just look like to me that they're starting to favour the intermediate guys, but unfortunately for Charlie, it's just a bit too late for him, because he's not really going to be making 8 seconds up with a couple of laps left.
No, but he is really starting to reel in Hercules at a rate of knots. It's down, that's gone down by 2 seconds over a lap and a half as Adri picks up for 5 seconds. I believe we might see a retirement from the Renault, and we do. So unfortunately that leaves us with only 10 runners at the end of this race. Yeah, Charlie really starting to catch Hercules. Hercules, of course, on the penultimate lap of the race. So it does look as though he's got a big enough gap. Of course, you just want to keep it between the 2 white lines on either side of the track. He doesn't want to pick up any unnecessary penalties. Charlie doing a magnificent job at holding White Fountain behind. Fountain, of course, on those tyres that are much fresher than Charlie's, just unable to get past him, having to sit behind the Englishman, and the Mercedes driver is just picking his points, picking his line, and Fountain is going to have to work out the long way round if he's going to get past, as we're about to start the final lap of the race. Hercules' gap now only at 6 seconds, so yeah, it really is starting to turn, or not even starting to turn. It's right back in the favour of these guys on the intermediates, and it's looking as though Hercules is going to finish the race not under threat, but possibly not as comfortable as what we first thought he would be, as we've got a yellow in sector 2 right now. It looks as though it might have been a slow car being cleared, because we're back to green, and we've still got behind Foxy Red in 4th position. Harry has now really fallen behind. Of course, those wet tyres starting to really go off. Equally, Speaker and Jumper Line, Alex, Meg and Luke all on those wet tyres, so they're starting to feel the effect. The gap now between Hercules and Charlie is 5.4 seconds. They're catching him by a rate just around 3 or 4 tenths every couple of corners, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be close, but it's going to be Hercules who's going to just hold on as long as everything goes right for the final few corners. Charlie has done a brilliant job at trying to close in. He's done a fantastic job at holding off White Fountain. It's going to be a run to the line between himself and Fountain. Fountain needs to get a good exit off the final corner, but here comes Hercules up to the line. He's just going to hold on to the win on the extreme wet, and he comes across the line. It's a full complement of points for him. 15 for the winner. Charlie is in second, unfortunately drops down on penalties to 3rd place. Foxy Red comes across the line in 4th position, and Harry, who's just about going to hold on to 5th position by the looks of it, with Speed Queen in 6th, not quite close enough to get a Pierre Gasly style drag up the line, up the straight towards him. There's Speed Queen in 6th, Jumper Line in 7th position, with CPI Alex in 8th. Meg Lugby is going to finish in the points in 9th, and if all goes well, LER Luke will join them as well, with those two picking up some more points. So Meg Lugby will be your 9th place finisher in the McLaren. So well, I'm sure he'll be slightly disappointed, because he could have had a few, got himself involved in that battle between 4th and down, but it's some more points for Meg. And Luke in 10th position, and Sab, he just did enough to hold on for the win.
Yeah, if those conditions had have been, 3 laps earlier for the Inters, who knows, we'd have had a mega battle for the end, but that, I don't think, could have gone any better for Hercules tonight. He's got the win what he needed, and his title rival finishing all the way down in 7th place. So it's going to go down to the wire next week for the final race, which for a neutral point of view is fantastic. But I know he's dropped down in 3rd place, but my driver of the day has to be Charlie. Starting on the back, he had an incident where he lost part of his front wing as well, so he had to rely on a safety car to get him back onto the pack. But when he did, he just stayed on those intermediate tyres, and boy did he pay off, and he managed to hold off a very fast White Lightning in the end. But unfortunately that 3-second time penalty just cost him a 2nd place. But overall, starting from 16th on the grid to finish on the podium is a superb effort.
Hercules takes the victory in 49 minutes and 32 seconds, 4.2 seconds ahead of White Fountain. Unfortunately, Charlie, after finishing 2nd on track, goes back to 3rd on the podium. Foxy Red 2000 in 4th, with Harry in 5th, Speedqueen in 6th, Jumper Linen with the fastest lap, so that gains him that crucial extra point in the championship, is in 7th position. CPI Alex in 8th, with Meg Lugby in 9th. LER Luke is in 10th, and unfortunately we lost Adri, Beck, Klaska, Burmeister, Scott and Warrislander earlier in the race. But yeah, Jumper Linen, that's a huge fastest lap that he's gained with that 1:11.1 there, and that is possibly made it just that little bit harder. But the gap is really closed up between himself and Hercules now as we head into the final race in Mexico next week. And I'm sure, Sab, you've got a couple of questions to ask the guys as soon as they can join us. But yeah, I mean, Hercules, that 15 points, that takes him up to 102 points, the 5 points for Jumper Line, and 105 points. So that's a huge swing in the championship. It's now only a 5-point gap between the two. So that is a pretty mouth-watering thing to look forward to for next Monday, isn't it? Only a 5-point gap between the pair, which means that if Hercules wins the race next week and Jumpalainen finishes third, Hercules would win the championship on countback due to having won the most amount of races. So is the pressure now on Jumpalainen as opposed to Hercules?
It could very well be that it was the race to forget for him, wasn't it, in the end? And at the end, that front wing damage probably just cost him an opportunity to even battle with these guys to try and at least claw back some places. But unfortunately, down in 7th place has really opened the door for Hercules now going into next week. And the guys have now joined us in the commentary box. I'd just like to ask and make sure you've all got your voices allowed to be shared so everybody at home can hear you speak. And then once you're all ready, I'll speak straight away to our pole sitter and race winner, Hercules. Congratulations tonight. It was what looked like a very difficult race, not only for yourself but everybody involved. How was it out there for you?
Really, really difficult. Just also in the quali was pretty close. I made a few mistakes in I think every lap, so I was a little bit lucky to have pole position. And then the guys behind me in the race had really, really good pace. I could not pull away. Normally I can get a gap, but that wasn't possible today because they really pushed. I just had that little bit more straight line speed to be in front of them. And then, the rain kicked in, and it was a little bit of a gamble then after the second safety car, if we should go on full wet or stay on inters. And I think I made the right decisions at the right point. And still happy to win, and I think we will have next week a good final.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's certainly opened the door up, like I said, for yourself. Next week now, you've got a real chance of challenging Jumpalainen. Did at any point towards the end of this race think that the Inter guys, like Charlie and White Fountain, were going to catch you? Because we were watching, and luckily for for yourself, they didn't have enough laps. But it looked like the Inter guys at the end were on the right tyre and they were closing in on you fast. Did you think at any point they were able to catch you? Or did you think it was because there was not many laps left, you had it comfortably?
Yeah, I was quite confident that I have enough of a gap, but the last 2 laps they could make up like 2 seconds each lap, which was really frustrating because I was pushing all the time. But I can do a bit of math and it was enough, so yeah.
Well, congratulations. You did exactly what you needed to do tonight, so it all goes to next week's finale around Mexico. Moving on to the second place man. He wasn't second on track, but due to penalties, he ended up with second place. White Fountain, we've seen you around this track before do superbly in interchangeable conditions, and as well tonight you had another great race. And to be fair, it's been a tough season for yourself, but one of relief to be back on the podium.
Yeah, it's been an awful season, and Brazil seems to be good for me. If it's dry and it rains, it was a really great race for me. I really had pace I didn't know I had. So in the wet, it was kind of tricky with the second safety car because I saw after I pitted that the other guys went for the full wets, and I stayed with the intermediates, and I hoped that at the end of the race, heavy rain wouldn't last as long as it did. But I'm happy with second, and we're still in the constructors fight for next week, so I hope Sam is back next week so we can take it.
Well, yeah, that is one thing for you to definitely focus on, and congratulations on the second place. Charlie, now, third place. Now you've finally woken up, I like to say. Starting from the back, you also had a bit of damage, a bit of wing damage, which forced you to make an earlier pit stop than you imagined. Safety car did help you out in the end, and you stuck it out on those old intermediate tyres. What was it like battling it with White Fountain, who had much younger intermediate tyres in those conditions?
I It wasn't too bad, to be honest. He was getting quite close in the infield section. He had a bit more grip, but I just seemed to be getting a good run off the last corner, and with my setup, I had good straight line speed, so he wasn't really getting that close down the straights. So it was quite comfortable, if I'm honest. It was just a bit hairy towards the end because my tyres were so old, because they were from the first wet stint, so I obviously didn't come in. So I managed just to hang on.
Yeah, right. Well, I said you'd be my driver of the day, and I think you deserve it from starting from the back. It was a good drive for yourself. So, even though you did cross the line second, the podium, I'd say from the back is a really good achievement. I just want to move back to Hercules for the final question. We're going into the last race of the season. Big battle for the title. How are you going to approach this, and what are you like around the Mexican Grand Prix circuit?
Yeah, I think I will approach it like every race, prepare a little bit, and it's one of my better tracks. So hope that I don't do something stupid in quali also, because at the end of the day we both can lose it like in every corner. If we spin or have a crash, the championship is lost. So yeah, it will be quite fun, fun to watch for you.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, just Gareth, just going back to you now. It's certainly setting it up for a real mouth-watering race next week, isn't it now?
I cannot wait for next week. It's going to be so interesting to watch. You've got Hercules, the man in absolute red hot form at the moment. It seems no one can touch him. He's dropped 3 points in the last 5 races. If he wins next week, Jumperlinen needs to finish third, or else the title goes to Hercules on countback due to the amount of races won. He can equal the record of most amount of races won in the season equally if Hercules picks up the victory in Mexico. So it is all to play for. The pressure is very firmly on both drivers to perform, and that is what makes for just a fascinating final race of the season. And that's what you always like to see as a racing fan. You like to see the title go down to the last race of the season. And what a treat we're in store for next week with the German and the Finn going toe-to-toe up against each other. And wouldn't it be nice, Sab, to see those two lining up against each other on the front row of the grid, heading down that long drag down towards turn 1?
It most certainly would be for us, but I can't imagine for the likes of Hercules and Jumperlinen they would really enjoy that. I think would prefer one of them to be further away, so it's a bit more comfortable. But yes, it cannot be missed next week.
I would enjoy it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because I think we only were wheel to wheel in Monza, where I wasn't really prepared, and just a few times. So yeah, I would be happy if we can go wheel to wheel. Would be a fun duel.
And there you have it from the man himself. Told me, didn't it? But it's definitely one to not be missed next week. I hope everybody who watched tonight tunes in tonight, and I hope more tune in, because it's going to be one hell of a race.
Yeah, the gauntlet has been thrown down by Hercules to Jumperline, and see if they can respond next week. Next Monday, the final round of this season, round 12 in Mexico. Make sure you join us here on YouTube. If you've enjoyed the race, guys, make sure you press that like button. Helps us out massively. Equally, if you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? You get more races like this. Press that subscribe button and press the bell to be notified every time we go live. Of course, we race on Tuesday nights, the Realistic Performance League. Wednesday nights is the IRL F2 and F3 leagues. You can find out more about us here at Invictus Racing League on invictusracingleague.com, and of course socials, Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, Invictus Racing League on Facebook, where you can find all things with race laps, hot laps, photo albums, and of course the Hall of Fame section, all the biggest and best stats from around the league every single week. And so yeah, you can check that all out on all of our social media channels. And of course, if you want to check out Sab and I, it's at Alan Sabatino, for Sab, at GT2_driving for myself. We'll be back next Monday for the final round of the season. Of course, next up is the Realistic Performance League tomorrow night with Malc and Tim in the commentary box. So make sure you check it here, 8 p.m. tomorrow night, for their penultimate race of the season. But for tonight and for this race, it's a brilliant one. It's won by Hercules. So it takes the championship to the final race of the season in Mexico. Join us at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez next week for what is due to be a fantastic night's racing. Good night, everyone.